This commission meeting is now live. You may proceed.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Clay County Commission to order. It is great to see a fairly full house here today, so thank you everybody for being here. I just want to remind everyone here to try to observe the regulations of masks and social distancing and all that so that we can stay healthy, but certainly having members of the public here at our meetings is a good way to start returning to some normalcy. Also, welcome to those watching us on the streaming services. So with that, we will get started. Mr. Administrator, if you could do the invocation, please.
Pray with me. Father, tonight we ask for your presence in this gathering. We pray, Father, for clear hearts and minds as we work together for the betterment of this wonderful county in which we are blessed to live. Father, we're grateful for a sign of a potential end to this deadly pandemic, which has disrupted all of our lives, and we are very grateful for that. We pray, Father, for a productive meeting, and we ask that you bless our country, our state, and the United States of America. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please stand for the pledge. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter? Commissioner Thompson?
Here.
Commissioner Nolte?
Here. By the way, for those of you who have been watching over the past several months, you realize that I have not been voting. I only vote in certain circumstances. However, since we are missing one associate commissioner, I will be voting tonight. When if Commissioner Carpenter shows up, then I will go back to my normal procedure of not voting except in the case of a tie and other special circumstances. So in case there's some confusion on the procedure, that's how we're working that, just so everybody has a good working knowledge. With that, it brings us to approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Motion is made for the approval of today's agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or any other changes alterations to our agenda? Having said that, I do have one. We had an emergency circumstance come up that I will want to request that we add 2021-71. And we will be discussing that. Before we go any further, I would like to go to our county councilor and make sure that very good, that is appropriate under sunshine law and the circumstances that you're aware of. Mr. Councilor.
Yes, Commissioner, I'm aware of the situation that has led to 2021-71 being put on the agenda, and I do believe it qualifies as essentially an emergency requirement. Now, it will, under our most recent ordinance, it will require unanimous vote to pass tonight.
Thank you. Will that include, that does not include my vote, or does it include my vote?
It does not need to include, it's unanimous of all voting commissioners.
Thank you for that clarification. By the way, Commissioner Carpenter is here with us, so that I will not be voting. Thank you, Commissioner Carpenter. With that, Commissioner Carpenter, the motion is on the floor for the approval of our agenda. I had requested that we add 2021-71 under the emergency circumstances. The councilor had just talked about that. Okay, and you have some awareness of it?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. I'm familiar with the request, and I'm happy to go in affirmation.
Okay, I think what we'll do is I would like to have either the administrator and or the representative from the sheriff's office give us some commentary on what the emergency nature is of this so that we can then inform the public and cast our votes accordingly. So, Mr. Administrator, if you want to go ahead and just do a quick just,
Okay, Commissioners, this emergency resolution 2021-71 is to approve an interagency cooperative agreement with the Ray County Sheriff's Office. It has to do with gifting a number of surplus Clay County Sheriff's vehicles to the Ray County Sheriff's Department, and I will defer to Captain Agdarian for further information.
Captain, if you'd like to proceed.
Thank you. Captain Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office. Previously, I had come before the commission with a letter from Ray County Sheriff Scott Childers requesting assistance in the form of commodities and some capital items due to the emergency nature of the condition he found his office in when he took office in January. Previously, that was for some office equipment. Today, I come to you with a request from Sheriff Childers, who regrets he cannot be here this evening. This is the text that I received from him yesterday. Hi, Amy, sorry to bother you. We apprehended a murder suspect yesterday and I lost 2 road vehicles. I am in desperate need. Can you please tell me when the vehicles will go before the commissioners? We had been in discussion with Sheriff Childers to try to transfer some of these surplus vehicles, but because of the new structure of the commission meetings, which is appreciated, it did delay when I would be able to present this to you, which was next week when I was planning to bring it to you, to the commission. But in light of the apprehension of this suspect Sunday evening, I believe it was, into early yesterday morning, they lost 2 additional patrol vehicles. They were already in dire need of patrol vehicles. And so that is the emergency nature of this request, and I very much appreciate on behalf of Sheriff Childers you entertaining this discussion tonight.
So if I may restate, the nature of the emergency is the Ray County Sheriff's Department is now even shorter than it was for vehicles in the Sheriff's Department to be deployed for the purposes of public safety. So we need to get those to them more quickly than we would normally have planned so that they can continue their job patrolling Ray County and protecting people.
Correct.
Very well. I would like to make the motion that we add 2021-71, if I had not already, to our regular agenda, and I would like to go ahead and perhaps put it as the first item. That way we can go ahead and have that resolved and move forward. Discussion, Commissioner Thompson.
No comment.
Commissioner Carpenter.
No, I'll be voting in support of this. I think long-term, obviously, Ray County needs to, the citizens there and their local leadership need to figure it out for a long-term solution to this. But in the short term, if we can be helpful to those residents, I'm happy to vote in affirmation. Thanks.
Okay. Are there any comments from anyone in the public? Seeing none, if there are no further, yes, Counselor.
Just to be clear, this will be going on regular agenda as the first item?
Correct, on a regular agenda, not consent.
Very good. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion, any other comment? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
The amendment has been passed. That brings us to the underlying motion, approval of the agenda, which now is the approval of the agenda as amended. Are there any other changes, additions, deletions, or any other alterations proposed to our agenda before we go to a vote? Commissioner Carpenter?
No.
Commissioner Thompson, it is your motion, so I will go to you for any additional comments and close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
That brings us to meeting schedule. Mr. Administrator?
Commissioners, the next scheduled meeting of the Clay County Commission is a work session scheduled for Thursday morning at 10 a.m. on March the 18th, 2021.
And for those who are maybe trying to keep up with the schedule, Mr. Administrator, we are right now on a schedule where we will have a Thursday morning meeting, and then the following week we will have a Wednesday 6 p.m. meeting as we are doing tonight. So just in case there's any confusion, to let you know that there is that alternating pattern going on.
I think we retain the right to make those meetings a little more fluid as needed, but that is the way we currently have this schedule, and it's a fixed schedule at this point.
Thank you very much. Honorary resolutions, there are none listed. Discussion items, we do not have any discussion items. Public hearings, there are no public hearings. That brings us to the consent agenda. Again, for those who might be new to the process or new to our meetings, consent agenda are items that are of no controversy and can be voted on as a group. Any commissioner may, in fact, remove an item from consent agenda and request to be put on the regular agenda. So first off, I'm going to ask, is there a commissioner who would be interested in moving anything off the consent agenda onto regular agenda?
No, I'm good with everything on consent. Thank you.
Commissioner Thompson?
No, I'm fine.
Very well. In that case, is there a motion related to the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion's made for the approval of the consent agenda. Discussion? Is there any discussion from the public? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
That brings us to our regular agenda, and we will go first to the item that was just placed on there by the amendment, that is 2021-71. Mr. Administrator, if you please.
Again, Commissioners, 2021-71 is a recently approved addition to the agenda to include an interagency cooperative agreement between the Clay County Sheriff's Office and the Clay County Sheriff's Office to provide them with six surplus vehicles from the Clay County Sheriff's Office and turn them over to Ray County.
Captain, would you like to go ahead and give us the presentation of this resolution?
Yes, thank you. Captain Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office. The Clay County Sheriff's Office is currently in possession of 6 vehicles and installed emergency equipment that had previously been used by the Sheriff's Office in the course of our law enforcement duties. We no longer have use for these vehicles, and these vehicles were intended to go to surplus. And we are requesting that instead of transferring to surplus, that we be able to transfer the surplus vehicles, auction, I should have said auction. We are requesting that instead of sending them to auction, that we be allowed to transfer the property to the Ray County Sheriff's Office for use in the course of law enforcement duties and protection of the public in Ray County. The only thing that I would add to this is you have, I believe that you have a packet that lists what vehicles we are requesting to transfer.
Yes, we do.
Okay, there are 6 vehicles. 5 of those are unmarked vehicles that do not require any additional servicing to transfer. They are unmarked. They are no longer recognizable as a Clay County Sheriff's vehicle. The 6th vehicle is an SUV that's currently being used as a canine vehicle. And that vehicle is scheduled to come out of service and be replaced with a larger canine vehicle. And we won't have any use for this canine vehicle. So we have spoken to Sheriff Childers, and he did ask that we, for that vehicle to be transferred with your approval and with removal of all Clay County markings. But that will be the only vehicle that would not be moved quickly.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but I'll ask anyway. We do have a mutual aid agreement with Ray County Sheriff's Department.
We do.
The reason I say that is this is not as though we're moving these vehicles to some faraway place. This is going to be used by a department that it is hardly beyond a conceivable notion that could in be come to the aid of Clay County citizens should the Clay County Sheriff's Department call upon Ray County for that aid. So they'll just be next door literally. And,
Yes.
and certainly we have the ability to call on our friends in Ray County to help us in a time of need.
Absolutely.
Is there a motion on 2021-71?
I move that we approve 2021-71.
Motion is made for the approval of 2021-71. Discussion. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm just glad to see that we're getting some good use out of these vehicles, and they can go somewhere where they continue to get more good use. So instead of just being junked somewhere.
Yes, thank you.
Are there any comments from anyone here, members of the general public, or any other persons in the audience? Seeing none, Commissioner Carpenter, it is your motion, so I will go to you for any additional comments and close.
Thank you. I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
2021-71 has passed. That brings us to two companion issues, 2021-63 and 2021-64. Mr. Administrator?
Commissioners, 2021-63 and 64 both are to approve the passport service offering master agreement which allows for electronic payments at the Camp Branch Marina and the Paradise Point Marina. This was presented last week during the work session. And do you want to speak to that? I'll defer to Deputy Administrator Donna Kuntz for further comment.
Donna Kuntz, Facilities, Clay County. Yes, Commissioners, this is to upgrade the gas pumps at the marina sites to allow us to take credit cards that have the chips in them for a more secure payment method for our citizens. It also includes a software package for us should we have difficulties with the program. It allows us to have access to their help desk to get the system back up and running.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the Deputy Administrator? Okay. Is there a motion related to 2021-63 and 64?
I'll make the motion to approve 2021-63 and 2021-64.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021-63, 2021-64. Discussion. Commissioner Carpenter, do you have anything that you'd like to ask or comment?
No, I appreciate our Deputy Administrator's presentation from last week and got a chance to take a look and look forward to voting and information. Thank you.
Are there any comments from anyone from the public? Seeing none. Commissioner Thompson, it's your motion, so you're free to make any further comments, questions, and close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
2021-63 and 2021-64 have been approved. My apologies, I skipped over inadvertently 2021 Ordinance 09, so we will take that one up now. Thank you, Mr. Administrator.
Commissioners, 2021 Ordinance 09 is to approve the amended 5-year fee schedule for the Planning and Zoning Commission of the county. And I will defer to Mr. Jones for further comment.
Please proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning and Zoning Manager. This is a request to amend the Planning and Zoning fee schedule, particularly in relation to removing any reference to the Clay County Green Build Incentive Program, which is an incentive-based program for new single-family construction. If the builder achieves a certain level of green building, they get a percentage of their permit fee back. The 2021 budget does not include any funds to fund that program, so we're asking that it be removed from the fee schedule. And I'd be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have.
Do commissioners have any questions of Mr. Jones? I would entertain a motion related to 2021 Ordinance 9.
I move that we approve 2021-09.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021 Ordinance 09. Discussion. Commissioner Thompson?
No comment?
Very well. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to comment? I see no one rising. Commissioner Carpenter, it is your motion, so please proceed.
Thank you. I renew my motion. I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
2021 Ordinance 9 has been approved. That brings us to 2021 Ordinance 11. Mr. Administrator?
Commissioners, 2021 Ordinance 11 is to reappropriate and revise the adopted budget for the current year in order to institute the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And I would defer to the auditor for further comment.
Mr. Auditor, when you are prepared, please proceed.
Thank you. Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Victor Hurlbert, Clay County Auditor. As discussed last week, 2021 Ordinance 11 is the budget reappropriation that is for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Clay County received in late January about $3.6 million from this program as part of the Consolidated Appropriations Act, or second stimulus, for a program to help those who qualify by income and who have arrears of rent or utilities, to be able to receive assistance and make them whole, who were impacted by the pandemic. So they have to qualify under those guidelines. Importantly, there can't be overlapping of jurisdictions, as we previously discussed. So the city of Kansas City has their own program. So for residents living in Clay County, who are also Kansas City residents, they will go to Kansas City for help with that program. But that's just a broad overview. This particular ordinance is to split up, per the Act's guidelines, a 90% bucket for the actual program. That will be payments to landlords, utility companies to make those tenants whole, and then a 10% administrative bucket. The Act says that we cannot exceed that. So this is going to help us from an accounting perspective to be able to track that. So that's what 2021 Ordinance 11 is.
Thank you very much. And as you say, this particular ordinance is mainly to put the money in the proper areas so that it can be expended as it's supposed to be. We will, of course, next be taking up a resolution that is more specific as to the actual operational details and how the money is going to be spent a little bit more specifically. So this ordinance is mainly just making sure that we've prepared to have the money for proper and legal disbursement.
Yes, absolutely.
Very well. Are there any questions of the auditor before we go forward? If not, is there a motion on 2021 Ordinance 11?
I'll make the motion to approve 2021 Ordinance 11.
Motion has been made for the approval of Ordinance 2021 Ordinance 11. Discussion, Commissioner Carpenter?
No, thank you.
Are there any persons here who would like to comment or ask questions related to this particular issue? Seeing none. Commissioner Thompson, it is your motion, so if you'd like to close,
I close.
please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Clay?
Yes.
2021 Ordinance 11 has been approved. That brings us to 2021-68. Mr. Administrator, please proceed.
Commissioners, Resolution 2021-68 will be the agreements that codify this process, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and our relationship with First Call Technology, also known as Community Care Link, and the United Way, subgranting Emergency Rental Assistance Program funds to the various nonprofits that will be participating in this. And I would call your attention to the second page of the request for commission action, which is in your packet, for a breakdown of the way those funds will be distributed to those various nonprofits, if you are curious. But I will also now turn the floor back over to the auditor for further elaboration on this program.
Mr. Auditor, when you're prepared, please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Administrator. So 2021, Resolution 2021-68 is essentially a plan with the budget from the previous ordinance, the plan of how this is to be distributed. Now, we mentioned this last week. I want to note one change that we want to implement. So with that 90% bucket, the actual program costs, we initially discussed a first release of 10% to make sure everything was working fine, and then go from there on a monthly basis. After discussion with United Way as our nonprofit organizer, and looking at how Kansas City was releasing up to nearly a third of their dollars right off the bat in an initial release, we went back and looked at that, and we decided on 20%. So I made that change since we last discussed last week, and so that's going to come out to around $131,000 for total. The total $655,000, but split 5 ways, $131,000 each to each of our 5 partner nonprofits to distribute to those for those tenants, payments to landlords and utility companies. So I wanted to bring your attention to that, made that change. Really, that's the only thing that's changed from last week. We did, however, I noted that we were going to get you the last missing piece of those MOUs, and thanks to a lot of assistance from United Way, we were able to get those MOUs to you. We have 6 of them. You should have been able to review. I'll point out to Commissioner Carpenter's request from last week, we thought it was important, and we included in section 4 in the mutual commitments a deployment of an outreach and fund distribution strategy that will ensure equitable use of ERA funds across the portions of the county for which ERA funds were awarded non-KCMO portions of the county. So we're definitely gonna track this to make sure that we're doing this in a fair, equitable way. You know, part of the application talks about gathering demographic data, so it's something that's definitely going to be tracked and the federal government is going to have interest in as well. So I've said a lot here, but I would be amiss, and what I want to do now, if it's all right, we have a lot of guests here tonight, and I want to give them just as an introduction.
Go right ahead if you'd like. And are you going to recognize them essentially?
Yes.
If you would please just raise your hand, and then we will, as we proceed, if you have anything you'd like to add to the discussion, we'll recognize you at that time. So please go ahead.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So, you know, a great thing about this program, we were eligible to receive for having over 200,000 residents. And I think, you know, the idea behind that is we're a larger community. We have resources to really reach down and help our citizens. And so we have, through a selection process with United Way, in a regional effort, we selected those 5 nonprofits. And so on hand tonight we have Jim McDonald. He is the Chief Community Impact Officer with United Way. And I can't say enough thanks for him. He's really an expert in this field. And he's working with both Jackson County and the City of Kansas City, so we really have a regional metropolitan effort with this program. And beyond that, we have an online application provider that we are working along with the City of Kansas City to help us prevent duplication of benefits in our area. Tonight with us is Ben Schlegel with Community Care Link. Currently on our website, and I'll say this, it's claycountymo.gov/transparency/ERAP, ERAP, Emergency Rental Assistance Program. We do have a link there where citizens can sign up to express interest. Oh, we're pulling it up, great. They can sign up for interest, and once the link, the application goes live next week, they'll be notified via email. And our fine folks, the case managers with these 5 nonprofits I'll introduce to you, will be working with applicants directly to get the required documentation and make the payments. So we will also have a phone number if folks want to make a call. They can, United Way has graciously made available their 211 phone system for residents who want to call to help direct people. So that's our online application provider. And then our 5 nonprofits that we selected, we have with us Community Action Agency. We have Lamont Hale, is the COO, I believe. All right, thanks for being here, Lamont. We have the Kearney Enrichment Council, is Kurt Hamilton. I don't think I got your title, the Executive Director, thank you. With Metro Lutheran Ministry, we have a representative here, Troy Wolfmeyer. Wolfmeyer. And we have the Northland Healthcare Access, which we already have a strong relationship with. Karen Dolt is the CEO. The Salvation Army here tonight, Major James Mungai. Did I say that correctly? Yes, sir. And your name, is it Jennifer Stepp? All right. Great to have you here. And I think that is it, our 5 nonprofits. So they will be the ones providing the expertise of working with our citizens directly. So I just wanted to introduce you to the commission, put a face to a name. It's really about all I have with that. I guess I'll take any questions and go from there.
Thank you very much. I would also like to point out in the way of acknowledging hard work done, certainly we want to acknowledge yourself, Mr. Auditor. Also, Tom Salisbury, our administrator, assembled a team of people in government to work through how this could be put together, including our treasurer, Bob Nance, and many others who worked very hard to make sure that we did something that was a responsible administration of this particular program. So I do want to make sure that that acknowledgement is there. Something, and perhaps this is something certainly I want to acknowledge Commissioner Carpenter's efforts on, and that is, you had mentioned the addition of his recommendation about equitable distribution and outreach. I'm just kind of curious, is that something that is relatively unique to the Clay County approach to this, or is this something that other subdivisions have picked up on as a valuable add-on to this program?
Well, I would say the application does require us to collect that demographic data. So I think it really was an intention in the law itself and the guidance we've received to be able to do that. And I think there's a lot of attention, Jim, I see you nod about attention even to potential homeless populations, and even those who might have issues with English language. That's something we have to be able to reach. So I would say, and a lot of the MOUs too are frankly they're modeled for some of our metropolitan community partners in the area too. So I think I would say yes. I mean, Jim, do you have any more?
Well, I think the only thing I would add is that the fact that we're using a shared application platform, so 100% of the beneficiaries will have gone through a online application platform, which will enable us in real time to track where the applications are coming from and where we need to do additional outreach, just based on the address of the applicants and some of the demographic factors that we picked up. So I'm grateful for the partnership with the Community Care First Call Technology team to help us to do that, because it'll be pretty key to make sure that the whole county.
I just want to make, one of the things I was trying to check is make sure that your comments were being picked up by the mics just fine. But next time when we come to you about a question, I'll give you a moment to make your way up to the mic stand so that your comments can be heard. But yeah, the thing that interested me was the fact that by cooperating with some of the immediately in the vicinity entities, that we would reduce, if not eliminate, duplication. So we wouldn't want a citizen to either fall through the cracks who was qualified, nor would we want to see an individual who would get benefit from both Clay County and the city of Kansas City when they're entitled to just one bite at the apple, so to speak. Something that I'd like to make sure that is understood in this program, and I don't know whether the auditor would be the proper person or Mr. McDonald or somebody else, but one of the things that struck me early on about this is it can, I think, be perceived as being a benefit to those individuals who have, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, fallen behind on both rent and or utility payments. One of the things I think that is a good thing to keep in mind is that the landlords who own these properties that these individuals are living in also are depending upon the receipt of these rents to make their mortgage payments. Many times these are small businesses. These are individuals who may have 8 or 10 units, and if not living on this, certainly the lack of that income to satisfy the mortgage does not relieve them necessarily of the obligation to make those payments. So I just, like I said, I'd like to make the point that this is not exclusively for those individuals who find themselves unable to pay their rents, but for those particularly small business owners who have rental properties and depend upon that for a portion of their income, and it just ripples out from there. So I want to make sure that, to that end, I would also ask one other question because, and it's a little bit technical, but I think it helps to have it brought forward, and that is, there's really 2 parts to this application. The landlord or the utility also has a part to play in this. Could you just give us, whether it's you, Mr. Auditor, or Mr. McDonald, give us a little bit of an idea of what that entails so that maybe the process is a bit more transparent for those listening?
Sure, I'll take a stab at it. Victor Hurlbert, again, the auditor. Just based on what I've heard. So the law requires that there has to be a landlord application as well as tenant application. And what I've seen is that the landlords will be able to apply on behalf of numerous tenants at once. And so it's going to be a matter of matching up those applications. You're going to need the tenant piece as well, however, because there's certain documentation that has to be gathered to ensure that it's income qualified, that there is that pandemic-related financial need, and identification and things like that. So it's really a two-part piece, but there certainly can be a cooperative effort. And I think I've heard from Karen Dolt, Northland Healthcare Access, that they actually distributed money for Clay County that we gave Kansas City last year, CARES Act dollars. And I think Metro Lutheran Ministry was part of that effort as well. So that, they're aware of how this type of program should work. And, in doing that, there was, if I remember correctly, cooperation where landlords could work with their tenants to get this done. So, yeah, there certainly is going to have to be a two-part process in that.
Thank you, because it is a rather a cooperative effort between landlord and tenant, which I think is a very healthy way to approach it. Certainly, it's preferable. Last thing, then I'll open it up to questions from the other commissioners, and that is, my understanding is that there is a time-sensitive element to this program. Could you give us some of the parameters on that as far as how much time we have to distribute this money and some of the other limitations, if you want to go into those?
Certainly. So by September, the guidance said we are to, really, the Treasury is going to take a snapshot, as far as I understand it, and look at potential reallocation. But really, this particular funding is through the end of this year. I will say, the new American Rescue package has passed. We're all trying to wrap our heads around every piece of that as we speak, but it's my belief that there is even more funding just like this, and we'll have to discuss how we work on that with this in cooperation with the state of Missouri and so forth. But this particular, from the second stimulus was through the end of 2021. So we're confident that there's enough need out there from what, I've understood, that we're going to, even by September, have enough in the queue, so to speak, that we're going to need these dollars and get them out, to give help.
Thank you very much. I think what I'd like to do is open it up for questions from both the other commissioners and comments, and then I will ask for a motion related to this item. And I see we at least have one citizen who seems to be queued up with a question or comment. So once we have a motion on the floor and we begin discussion, then we will go to the public for their comments and or questions. Commissioner Carpenter, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll probably reserve my commentary for the comment portion. You've answered a lot of the questions, and I appreciate working with you on the making sure that we do this in an equitable and fair way. And I'm very glad to hear that there's going to be sort of real-time demographic data coming in, location and demographics, to make sure that we're getting these funds out. As I said last week, I think we'll see, but it's potentially the case that there will be more demand than there is dollars, right? So to the extent that not everybody's able to take advantage of the program, we at least want to make sure that we're doing it in a fair way. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Thompson, do you have any questions or comments before we proceed?
Thank you, Commissioner. I actually don't have any questions at the moment. I think you guys have done a really great job of bringing this to the commission and checkmarking a lot of these boxes for us. I just think this is some much needed funds that need to get out in our community, and I, for one, am looking forward to get that out there because I think it's definitely a need right now.
Very well. With that, I will entertain a motion for the approval of, let me turn my page back so I don't get my numbers out of order, 2021-68. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll move that we approve 2021-68.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021-68. Discussion. I would remind citizens and anyone else who comes forward for comments to please identify themselves. Obviously, with masks, we do want to make sure that you enunciate. Please make sure that the green collar is lit, is illuminated when you come up to make your comments. Mr. Counselor, I believe you want my attention?
I do, Judge. I always do that.
You can just call me Your
Commissioner.
Honor.
Just a housekeeping matter, I'm going to request an amendment, and might be better to take that up before we start receiving comments.
Okay.
When we took this up last week, we didn't have the 5 agreements from the nonprofits. We've now received those. The resolution did not identify those agreements as being approved, so I think that would probably be the cleanest way to do it, is to identify all 7 agreements as opposed to only the 2 that we had. And the second housekeeping item is the MOUs that we received back were actually put under the signature of Mr. Salisbury, not a commissioner. This resolution only identified the commissioners to sign, so I did an amendment, if someone wants to accept it, to allow any commissioner or the county administrator.
So what you're recommending is that we take up 2 separate amendments as a way to clean up the language in these, one adopting the specific recipients, and the other is to allow for the signature of the administrator.
That would be probably the simplest way to do it, and probably would be my request, and I've worked with Brandy to get this amended version ready to go.
If I could beg the indulgence of the citizen, if we could go ahead and work, and obviously you're free to comment on these amendments as we discuss them, but I will make sure we come right back to you once we have these housekeeping matters taken care of, if that's acceptable. And, yeah, so, there's no particular order that these are really?
No.
Would a commissioner be interested in proposing an amendment to 2021-68 under the lines that the counselor has recommended?
I'll make the motion to approve the amendments laid forth by county council.
And can we take them up as one?
I think you take them up together as a single amendment if you choose.
Okay, so we are talking about taking them up as one large amendment. Is that the motion? Okay. Motion has been made to amend 2021-68 along the lines that the county councilor has just stated. I think what I'd like to do, Commissioner, if you don't mind, is, and please move the mic just a little closer, Mr. Counselor. Go ahead and give us another, a brief read of what it is that we're talking about, and then I will go to Commissioner Thompson. But go ahead and explain those once more, please.
I'll take it back. Sure. The resolution last week identified a contract with 2 entities. It identified First Call Technology, Community Care Link, and the second entity was United Way, and then also identified that any commissioner could sign those agreements. Now that we have all of the agreements, I would like to add, in addition to those 2, First Call and United Way, the 5 nonprofits that we would be signing agreements with. So it would specifically identify Community Action Agency, Kearney Assistance Center, Metro Lutheran Ministry, Northland Healthcare Access, and the Salvation Army. So those additional 5 bring approval to a total of 7 agreements. And in addition, because all the agreements came back under Mr. Salisbury's name, it would be to authorize him to execute those agreements.
Very good. Commissioner, does that comport with what you had intended?
It does, thank you.
Very well. Would you like to say anything further on those, on the amendment?
I don't, I close on this.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and go to Mr. Carpenter, Commissioner Carpenter. Commissioner Carpenter, do you have any comments or
No,
questions?
sounds very straightforward to me. Look forward to voting yes. Thank
Very
you.
well. And Commissioner, you close?
I'll close again.
There we go. Please call the roll on the amendment to 2021. Oh, before we do that, did anyone else have a comment before we go forward? I didn't mean to skip over that step. So no one seems to have a comment or question?
Our organization is the Kearney and
If would you go ahead and yeah, I appreciate that. I want to make sure everybody hears what you have to say.
Kurt Hamilton with the Kearney Enrichment Council. Our organization is the Kearney Enrichment Council, not the Kearney Assistant Center, just for that clarification. Thank you.
With that additional amendment, yes.
Okay, so
Kearney Enrichment Council.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Thank you. So Commissioner Thompson, you're good with that technical change to your amendment?
Yes, I am. I would want to make sure we have the correct names here going forward. I think that'd be appropriate, so yes.
Thank you for pointing that out. Very well. So I see no further comment. With that slight technical addition to the amendment, please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes?
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
That brings us to 2021-68 with that amendment on it. I believe there was a citizen who would like to have a question or comment. Please make sure the mic is on and speak clearly into the mic.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jim Oldebecken. Just a brief observation and a question. My observation is that I have done some study in the area of landlord and tenant circumstances, and part of it was through an organization called Casey Tenants. And one thing I am aware of is, and I'm very sensitive to, is that there are, throughout our communities, many people that rent. My understanding is 48% of those in our community do not own their home. They live in rented residences. But it's my understanding that the vast majority of units are owned out of state. One is NFI Management, which is one of the real estate investment firms and property management companies that has the most evictions. And the other is Landmark Realty on the West Coast. So my second question is, I know that anytime federal money is involved, there will be reports and audits. How is it possible, or is there any concern about the ability to follow the money, report on it, track it, audit it, if it's going through so many stops? I mean, it comes through the county, and then I'm not so much concerned about nonprofits, but I do believe they need to be audited or reviewed. But then especially like out-of-state real estate companies, unless they're not included. I'll sit down. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, if either Mr. Auditor or if one of the other persons here could address that technical question. That is an interesting point because for better or worse, we do have a number of landlords who are not in this state. Can you address that, Mr. Auditor?
Well, certainly. I mean, we will definitely, as Victor Hurlbut, Clay County Auditor, we're definitely going to track and have very good transparency as far as, where every dollar goes, and we'll do that. And obviously, a confidential, will, protect privacy, but we will maintain that data. Now, I'll just say, I mean, this is a federal law. United States Congress passed this. We're administering it. We didn't, Clay County didn't make the choices of how this law is to be administered. So that being said, I don't have the exact figures of how many landlords or Clay County residents or not. I think, time will tell. But on the other side, this is a way to make those tenants whole. But I do understand your concern, absolutely. It is a reality. There's, we are going to have landlords who don't live in Clay County. Yes, sir.
But go ahead, and I'd like to go ahead and have the administrator. He wanted to address that too, but if you, sir, would like to come up to the mic, we will address you next. Go ahead, Mr. Administrator.
Just this comment, when we built this program, when we started to build the program after the money was indicated to be delivered our way, we really did have a choice of whether to administer this ourselves, or whether to go into the community. And while I would say with some confidence, if we had chosen to administer it ourselves, we would have tried very hard to do the right thing. But I don't think we could ask for any better partnerships than the people that are represented here tonight, who live in the neighborhood, who know the people, maybe even know the landlords, if you will. And so we made a decision that we could count on these agencies of the community to monitor and identify and confirm or affirm the need. And that's exactly why we went out into the community to get this program administered rather than to do it ourselves. I have a lot of confidence. There's no question that fraud exists and will always exist, but I have a lot of confidence in these folks that the people that get delivered these funds will be people that deserve these funds.
Thank you for your diligence in the matter. We appreciate that. Yes, sir, you had a comment. Please identify yourself.
I'm Major Mungai with the Salvation Army. One of the things that we have to do with our landlords that we give payment to, they have to fill out a W-9, so there is a tracking mechanism. So we do not cut a check. We do not pay anything until all those documentations are in, including the W-9, which is a federal form, and then that's a way of tracking as well.
Sorry about that. I was just doing making sure that we were doing things in the proper parliamentary order. Thank you very much for that update, that information. Did any of Commissioner Thompson, did you have any questions related to that?
I do not, thank you.
Or anything else for that matter? Commissioner Carpenter?
Related to the question or
Really
the overall
related to the
issue?
question, just because it was on the subject, but and more broadly, if you have anything that you'd like to talk about or bring up. I'm going to go one more round of getting comments, and then we'll go to a vote. So,
I'll wait then, thanks.
are there any citizens who would like to comment, or any of the agencies involved who would like to comment or ask any questions? Seeing none. I'm trying to remember this. Whose motion are we looking at? Okay, very well. Commissioner Thompson, did you have any other questions or comments before we go to a vote?
I do not, Commissioner, but I'm looking forward to voting in favor of this, so.
Very good. Commissioner Carpenter, I believe it is your motion, so certainly make any comments you would like to, and then close.
Thank you, Commissioner. No, I just want to extend my gratitude as well to the county team for making this happen. This is obviously several $1 million that I think will go a long way to helping out a lot of folks here in the county. And then especially want to extend my gratitude to the nonprofit partners who are taking on this effort. I've had a decent amount of experience in the nonprofit world over the years, and I know it's a lot of tough work, but a lot of rewarding casework that comes out of it, and I'm confident that you all will do that for us, so thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes,
The motion passes. By the way, also I would like to add my thanks to the nonprofits and those who have stepped forward to help us with this program. Certainly, we appreciate your service to our community and your ability to make life better for our citizens. Yeah, I think we can bend a parliamentary rule occasionally, so please go right ahead.
You knew I would make a comment or something. No, I'd just like to commend you.
Go ahead and identify yourself, though. That one I won't bend on.
Yes, Karen Dole with Northland Healthcare Access. I'd just like to commend you for stepping up and taking this action, because Clay County has done a great job of making sure that the funds get to the people. And not all counties are doing it like that. So I really appreciate it, and so do the people.
Well, certainly, I think our commissioner and our team appreciate your kind words. But that brings us to 2021 Ordinance 12, I believe, Mr. Administrator.
Commissioners, 2021 Ordinance 12 is to reappropriate and revise the adopted budget for the current year of Clay County, Missouri. This is to deal with some carried over purchase orders and a variety of funds to fund those for the coming year. I'll let the auditor add any comments.
Mr. Auditor, when you're prepared, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. Victor Hilbert, Clay County Auditor. Yeah, so we discussed this last week. It's from our budget. It's from our adopted ordinances, 2021 Ordinance 410D. So we have 4 purchase orders that, after working with departments we identified, should be reopened pending commission approval. Those are in the airport fund, on the master plan that they're doing with the Midwest National Air Center. And you have a light fixture correction repair and a parking lot for facilities where supplies had been delayed. And then numbers 3 and 4 again were with the highway department for some dump bed trucks that haven't arrived yet, so we need to receive them before we make payment. So those are the 4 that will be reopening.
Very well. Are there any questions of the auditor from the commission? If not, is there a motion related to 2021 Ordinance 12?
I make the motion to approve 2021 ordinance 12.
Motion is made for the approval of 2021 ordinance 12. Discussion. Commissioner Carpenter?
Thank you, no.
Is there anyone here from the assembled group here that would like to make comment or has a question? I see none. Commissioner Thompson, it is your motion, so please feel free to close and make any comments.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
2021 ordinance 12 has been approved. That brings us to 2021 67. Mr. Administrator?
Commissioners, we discussed this last week as well in the work session. This is a resolution to establish a Clay County Bicentennial Committee. Two bicentennials coming up, the bicentennial of the state in August of this year, bicentennial of the county in January of this coming year. And this is to establish that committee.
Thank you. It was my issue that I brought up last time, so I'll go ahead and speak on it rather briefly. We had talked about having a bicentennial commission. This contemplates 9 members. What I would like to do would be to accept applications in the usual method, which is on our website. For those who are interested in serving on this commission, I will be consulting with the administrator. Certainly, the input of the other commissioners is more than welcome within the bounds of our Constitution and Sunshine Law. But I do want to make sure that we give sufficient time for those who are interested to express that interest. It's my intention to not forward nominations for these positions. I think I would like to wait until April to do that, to make sure that we have sufficient notice to those who are interested and sufficient time to consult with all concerned parties within the government. I think this is going to be something that is going to be something we can really look forward to. The idea that we are, and I've said this before and I will say it again, we have a new constitution, we have a new commission, we have many new members in this government, and the idea that we are also now celebrating our bicentennial, I think it's just an indication, if we need it any further, that this county is turned a chapter and that we are moving in a much more positive direction. I look forward to this not just being a celebration of the bicentennial of this county, but a celebration of the fact that we are, in fact, moving in a very much different direction than we have been for some past years. And I very much look forward to working with everyone on this and making sure that we have a celebration that really underscores what a great county this is, and to communicate to everybody that this is a county on the move. We are going to be, I think, looking at a tremendous future here, and I'm just excited to be part of it. So, with that, I will ask for any comments from my fellow commissioners. Commissioner Thompson,
No comment.
Commissioner Carpenter.
No, just that I think this is fantastic. I look forward to the work of this new commission, and look forward to the celebration of the bicentennial.
Is there a motion related to 2021-67?
Yeah, I'll move that we adopt 2021-67.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2021-67. Discussion. Is there anybody here from the audience who would like to make any comments or have any questions? Seeing none, Commissioner Thompson, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think we've all said it, and I think it's we're ready for something fun here in Clay County. So
Absolutely. Commissioner Carpenter, your motion, so I will go to you for any additional comments and close.
Thank you. I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
yes.
2021-67 has been approved. That concludes our regular agenda. That brings us to comments on non-agenda items. I would like to point out that this is slightly different than we have been doing it. We had a section on comments on agenda items, so this is going to be slightly different. This is an opportunity for different categories of comments to be heard related to non-agenda items. The first and And I think very arguably the most important would be comments from the public on non-agenda items. I see we have a citizen at the podium. I would remind citizens when they come forward to make sure the microphone is on, speak clearly, and please identify yourself and then proceed.
My name is Bob Oakes from Gladstone. On February 18th, I asked about making email notifications for scheduled meetings, and I'd like to know what kind of progress we're making on that.
Mr. Administrator, do you have could you address that? I realize that it's a rather technical question, but if you would like to give us any updates, or is that still a work in progress?
Sure. So I don't have an answer to that question. I can tell you that we have gone to great lengths to make the commission meetings accessible online and in the public, and that in no way excuses not making a notification through email. So having not done that, and there's really no reason we haven't done that, I can certainly guarantee that we'll talk to our information technology folks and find out what the nuances are having to do with that. And if it's something we can do, we will do it. And if it's something we have a difficulty doing, we will also explain that, and we'll do that right away.
I think that's an excellent suggestion. I mean, I've got to tell you myself, I have trouble sometimes operating my phone, so I get a little bit twitchy about making too many demands on people on the technology, but I do have confidence that our administrator and the IT department will be working on that. And I do appreciate you bringing that suggestion forward. I think that is a good one, and I hope that we are able to work towards that. Do you have any further comment that you'd like to make?
Well, on the same subject, the web, we spend a lot of money in Clay County for IT, and the Clay County website is very, very poor and very, very difficult to even get information back and forth, even for this meeting. And that's a general one, and really need to have a schedule. We don't know when you're going to have these meetings until like 2 days before or 1 day before. We need to have some schedules, and the email notification would be a way to help to get around searching for all that information.
Before did you have anything you wanted to add, Mr. Administrator?
Just after he finishes his comment.
Okay, Mr. Administrator was going to add something to it, but go ahead and continue with your comments, and then we'll go ahead and go to the Administrator. So please proceed, sir.
Well, a couple other things too. Every time when you guys sign all these ordinances, you have really poor penmanship. You all sign like doctors.
I've got to plead absolutely guilty on that one.
And I've asked this before. Is it too much to put a printed name underneath? You can sign it any way you want, as long as there's a printed name so we know who is signing documents. I think that should be a normal legal way of signing documents.
That is, that's an interesting suggestion, because there are some documents that we sign where, and I'm sure they have me in mind if you've seen my signature, where you have signature and then you have print your name, print your title, and then date. So perhaps we should look into something like that. I have to confess that I went to a Catholic parochial school, and if the nuns could see my particular brand of penmanship, they would weep.
Well, if the meeting notes were up to date, you'd see that I've made this suggestion for 2 years now. And, the last thing, on posting your schedule and meetings, there's no time when it was posted. The requirement says that you must post it 24 hours ahead of time. So if the meeting's on the 10th and you post it on the 9th, then you have to post that by 5:30 the day before. So if you say it's posted on the 9th, now this one was said it was posted on the 8th for the 10th, so you're kind of covered. But there really should be a date and a time. And the response I usually get is, well, just get your butt off the couch and come down here and go out here and look at the schedule, the bulletin board, every day. Now, that's not a very good response.
No, I'm not sure that's, yeah, I would be very disturbed.
I don't
But I
think
would
that-
say, but I will say this, though, one of the things, and I want to commend staff for working on this, and that is, you are correct in your assessment of the requirements under Sunshine Law, and that is 24 hours notice. We have been working, I believe, Mr. Administrator, on bringing that to a 48-hour notice when we post them on our website. Clearly, we always have room for improvement, but that is one of the ways, and I'm very pleased that we are, at least to that extent. We still have more work to do, but the idea that our staff is now posting, is that correct, Mr. Administrator? That we are posting now 48 hours and in fact doubling the minimum requirement, but still, I think hearing from citizens and how we can keep them more informed is certainly something we're all very interested in. I'll go ahead and go to the administrator, and then I'll ask if the other two commissioners have any thoughts or questions.
Just this, appreciate the comments on the website, appreciate the comments on the notices. We have a highly skilled and dedicated workforce in our information technology area who is constantly working on upgrading and updating and making more sophisticated our website. That will continue to go on. And as it relates to the meetings, this particular example of this meeting, we are absolutely committed to meeting the 48-hour, that's a self-imposed deadline, to meet a 48-hour commitment to posting of this. I know for a fact that this notice went up at about 4:30 p.m. on Monday, which obviously achieves the 48-hour notice. I'd be foolish to say we won't maybe bump our toe once in a while on that, but that is a commitment. It's a commitment that we will be very faithful to, and our goal is to let people know when we're gathering and make it early enough that they can make plans to be here if they want to, and we will continue to do that.
And just on a personal note, I have to tell you that in past years, I was lucky to get 24 hours notice myself on these agendas, not much less citizens. So we are, we're in month 3 now, and I think that we've seen improvement, and I think we're going to see even more improvement. But I believe Commissioner Carpenter had some thoughts to share.
Thank you. I just want to thank Mr. Oaks for the comments. On the email thing, I think absolutely that can be done. It should be done. I can't imagine any technical reason why that would be difficult to do, so hopefully we'll do that in the very near future. And then in terms of the meeting time consistency, I do totally agree. We ought to be consistent with our times. It sounds like maybe the agreement among the commission is a back and forth Wednesday at 6, Thursday at 10. Obviously, there are exigent circumstances or emergency circumstances that could come up, but I definitely agree that we ought to, as consistently as is possible, stick to those times so that folks understand when the meetings are going to be. And so I will advocate for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson.
I want to thank Mr. Oaks for coming up. I do appreciate you coming in and voicing this for our community. And there is always room for improvement in government on any level. So we will strive to get into shape a little bit more.
And one last comment. It sure would be nice if you printed and published a tentative schedule, not one that you're locked into, because even 48 hours notice, if we want this room full, you have to let people plan ahead of time, because if they plan a birthday party so they know when they can go to a meeting ahead of time, tentatively at least, and then when it really gets posted, then they know it's really scheduled, it's final at that time. Something like that.
By the way, it just popped in my head that when we go through our agenda, one of the early on agenda items is meeting schedule, number 6 on the agenda. And tonight we'd mentioned that we will have a work session Thursday, March 18, 2021 at 10 a.m. So, we're moving, I think, in the right direction. So this is close to a week's notice, but still not everyone sees this agenda, but I think are are improving, and we're striving to improve yet more. And one of the things that gives me encouragement is the hard work and dedication of our IT department, that they will do everything in their power to make sure that we are even more responsive to citizen concerns and needs.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
I think, was there another citizen who would like to comment?
My name is still Jim Oldebecken. I have a couple of things that I'd like to present under non-agenda items. I really appreciate the opportunity to be involved in Clay County. I have not been for 19 years of the 20 years I've lived in the county, and I regret that. But I am glad that I was brought to my attention about some opportunities to be involved. And I was very happy to be involved with the exciting event of the framing of a constitution, the first for this county. And now we enjoy its benefits. One of focus that I've had with being involved is just the, how can I describe this? The thrill of seeing a constitution framed, seeing the process, the people, how it's done, how they conduct themselves. And after getting involved, I actually took another step and decided to aggregate the data for reuse and preserving it. I've got friends in the historical, as you might imagine, in this historical and reenacting community locally. And I was connected with the Clay County Archives, so it's my goal within about 2 weeks to provide sort of what I aggregated. I'm sure others can add to it, but public records and media coverage and a few notes, and to other government entities that are interested in receiving that information. Excuse me. I'll conclude by describing my next chapter. Well, actually, I'll raise it right now. I'm trying to conclude this work with the archives in the next 2 weeks, because on March the 24th, it's an opportunity for me to turn the page and begin a new chapter of my life, which has to do with something I just love and am very passionate about, as a number of you already know. It has to do with citizenship education as a means to strengthen citizen involvement. Well, citizens being informed and involved, as Commissioner Nolte mentioned very well a couple meetings ago. And I'm pleased to tell you that I've received from our Department of Homeland Security their Civics and Citizenship Toolbox, other resources. They are outstanding. It is my hope that maybe someday, I guess this might be a pipe dream, but possibly in a few years, maybe by the 250th anniversary of the Declaration coming up in 2026, that it might be possible for at least half of our citizens to be able to pass the citizenship test, which is required for anyone to become a citizen if they were not born here. And it's wonderful. It's so exciting to have this information, and it's all readily available. And for me, it's very refreshing to learn something without having to go through somebody else, having somebody explain to me what was said. I am thrilled to read the original documents. They're so readily available. And these resources, I think, are going to be pretty cool. So I'll be focusing on that, and I would like to touch back with, wow, that's cool, lightning, touch back with you to keep you posted and ask for your support. I do have a couple questions, but I do want to raise another point that I became aware of just a couple days ago. This really concerns me, and it concerns, I think it's of significance for this body. One of our Gladstonian residents, Robert Bateman, I learned has recently filed a suit against my city, Gladstone, for $150 million, having to do with a property in Clay County on 76th Place. And that is something we should talk about. this individual. I'm not going to say too much, but I mean, this has to do with financial benefit. It has to do with treatment of city council and our county. And also, there are matters related to elections. So I'd like to get that on people's radar screen. And I guess as a conclusion to this part, for me, that's $5,000. 150 million divided by 25,000 residents, that's $5,000. And I think there's better ways to resolve situations, especially for a very small 2-acre property. I do have a couple quick questions, though. As they say, the job's not done until the paperwork's completed. I do have a question. There's a requirement in our Constitution, our Missouri Constitution, Article 6, Section 18R, for one certified copy of a constitution by a county adopted or amended to be deposited with the Secretary of State. I wondered if that had been done yet.
I don't know. We can check into that. That's not something I'm aware of as
Okay.
far as whether we've done it or not. But thank you for bringing that up.
Let's see. I have a quick question, and I apologize, I wasn't able to discuss this at the meeting when it took place, but the Clay County Ordinance 2021 ORD 01, paragraph F, and it references something I don't really understand, and I don't know why we have to do this, but maybe you could help me understand this. Voting. The absence, abstention, or recusal by an associate commissioner or commissioner on any item brought to the county commission for a vote shall be treated as a vote in the negative. And then there's additional provisions that if, when they come back, they disagree, they can be voted on later. I mean, I've never seen something like this. And my understanding of an abstention is it's not a yes and not a vote. Not a yes and not a no. And finally, is this the intent of the commission now and all the way through, when we have 7 commissioners?
I'm going to go ahead and let the counselor, I do have a thought on that, but I'm going to let the counselor go ahead and address that, please.
Sure, thank you, Commissioner. It's essentially a way to make sure that there is a mechanism to vote on issues. So if one commissioner doesn't show up, is on vacation, is sick, this would allow a quorum to operate that evening or that day. Additionally, I do suspect that when the 7-member commission comes on board, that there's a very good chance that specific provision will probably be repealed. Certainly can't speak for that commission, but that would be what I would suspect. So that provision is there to simply address the anomaly of a 3-member commission.
Okay. I do have an objection to that provision substantially. I don't think I understood it before it was voted on. I didn't know it was coming up at the meeting. And furthermore, I'm looking at the Clay County Constitution, Article 9, General Provisions, Section 9.02. The county commission may, by a supermajority vote, place before the voters of Clay County an amendment or amendments to this constitution to be voted on at the next general election. And I'm thinking, as I read that, if there's going to be a change to something important in the Constitution, I mean, if it's administrative or something, but at some point, I mean, like votes, majorities, abstentions, I think the people already decided on that, in my opinion, and I question why this was done. I mean, you can't have a majority of 1, but we have the conflict, I know, with the president not voting. And then finally, I know that we're saving a lot of money with not, bringing general or county counselor or attorney in-house. But how do we handle situations where, say, there's a conflict of interest? I know that our current county counselor is on the city council of another city, And if it's overlapping real estate, they're close by. So how do we handle a case in that instance? Seems like we were going to need to have a backup. And then if there's ever a concern with propriety or ethics, whatever comes up, how would that be handled without having to go to the county counselor for advice?
I guess I'll just say very simply that all ethical issues are dealt with by attorneys, and if there is a conflict of interest, it will be addressed. But
I didn't hear that.
I said that if there is a conflict of interest, it will be addressed. And this is not something that is new. This happens with some frequency.
Just as by way of example, there was an issue that came up probably a year or so ago, and the then county council had in fact a conflict, and in fact announced that they had one. I was then allowed to find alternate counsel to come in and to represent that point of view because they had a conflict. So and it does come up rather rarely. That was something that came up, that would have been, I'm thinking that was late 2018 perhaps, I'm not sure my time frame there, but that gives you an idea about how frequently it comes up. And so hopefully, another thing that I would point out is the counselor is giving us legal advice. He's not creating policy, but is merely making sure we understand the legal implications of the actions that we do. So that there's a little different conflict of interest than it would be for, say, myself if I were voting on an issue and abstaining. But I think also our attorneys are bound by the ethical canons, and I have every confidence that they, particularly Mr. Graham, will be abiding not just by the letter but by the spirit of those. So I have a high degree of confidence that if that should happen, we will be informed by county council, and then we could act appropriately to come up with alternate who does not have a dog in the fight, I guess.
A related question to what you just said, you mentioned about his giving advice to the council. I asked a question earlier about the job description for the county councilor. I mean, it's a very important position. It's something everybody depends on. I didn't see I was referred to the Constitution, the Clay County Constitution, and that I should go there for the definition. And basically, I saw the words or the description that the county councilor is to help defend the county. I saw really no reference to advice, guidance to, as well as no reference. I know we state we will, hire an administrator who responds to the ethics of his profession. And I just, seeing the county councilor description about that big concerns me. I think there should be a reference to ethics. And
I think part of that is because in our Constitution it refers to state statute. So I believe there's a chapter in state statute that has the county councilor that it deals with, and so that is where we accept guidance. And our Constitution, I think, points out that is where we would look for those particular issues.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public who would like to make any comments, ask any questions on non-agenda items? Seeing none. By the way, I'm glad you mentioned it was lightning. I thought maybe I was having some kind of a moment. Are there any office makers who would like to comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none. Are there any agencies who would like to comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none. That brings us to the county administrator comments. Mr. Administrator?
None. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us to commissioner comments. Something has recently come up that I wanted to certainly make some note of. We have for some time rented space at the Central Bank building located at 16 West Franklin, not far from this location. We have, in fact, as a county, become aware that property was, in fact, available for sale, and we were certainly concerned that we may not be able to retain our offices there. To that end, we have ended up purchasing that property. We were, I think, able to do a good transaction. This was done in conjunction with all of the commissioners. Obviously, this is a real estate transaction, so we were compliant with sunshine law. We were able to buy the building at well under its assessed value. So we are looking forward to being able to close on that. This transaction is anticipated to close in early May. The purchase price was $660,000. The assessed price was $750,000.
Slight correction.
Yes.
The appraised value.
Excuse me, I meant appraised value. I misspoke. Thank you for the correction. In my mind, this was a unique opportunity for Clay County to enhance the public's access to county services. This facility has, as many banks do, the ability to put your payments into tubes, which is something that has been missing in our service to our customers, to where they, or I should say our citizens, where they could come up and put documents into that kind of an operation and be able to submit those documents. Our commitment is to make government as open and as convenient for our citizens as possible, and I think this is a good step in that direction. We will be releasing more information on that shortly, but I wanted to make sure that that was out there and that we were informing the public. I didn't think this was something we wanted to basically put out on a press release, but make sure that we were able to speak about it in public and make sure citizens were informed. With that, Commissioner Thompson, do you have any comments that you would like to make?
Thank you, Commissioner. Now, I will say that this was a cost-saving decision, and our previous commission signed a multi-year lease that was causing the taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this move will allow us to get out from underneath that financial burden, and it will meet our continuing duty to the stewards, to be good stewards of taxpayer money. And this property here is part of my intent that the action will meet some of the county's legal obligations and allow us to move forward with repairing our current existing annex rather than wasting millions of dollars on a frivolous new annex building. So, long story, it really will be cost savings for the county, and I think it's a great location. So.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Carpenter.
Yeah, that's certainly my goal as well. We're paying a pretty generous amount to lease that space, and we're already leasing the majority of the building for a number of years now, and had an ongoing lease that would lock us into a lot of future payments. So I think it makes a lot of sense to move in this direction. I also hope, like Commissioner Thompson, that this makes the path forward with the annex project and our ability to avoid having to spend $15 to $20 million at the proposed new location can help guarantee that we don't get locked into a situation where that happens, and agree with Commissioner Nolte that there will be benefits to this in terms of storage and space, as well as hopefully folks who, when they come to deal with the county assessor, the county collector, et cetera, instead of having to come into the building, have a drive-through option that they've not had before. And I think, that building uniquely provides that opportunity as well. And yeah, I think that's all I've got to say about it for now, but I do think it's a step in the right direction for the county.
Thank you very much. I just want to emphasize that this does, of course, affect the needs that this county has for space, and certainly that causes us to do some exercise and reevaluation as far as what the needs of the county are, since we will be acquiring new space. But I would also like to make clear that Clay County will do its best interest of its citizens. However, we will honor our commitments and our covenants as we go forward, but this gives us a chance to clarify those priorities. Any further comments from commissioners before we move on? Seeing none. That brings us to approval of the minutes of previous sessions. as we have, excuse me, I believe we have two sets of minutes. We can either take them up as a group or take them up individually, depending on what sort of a motion is brought forward by one of the commissioners.
I'll make the motion to approve February 18th at 10 a.m. and the February 24th at 6 p.m. Commission.
Motion is made for the approval of the February 28, 2021, 10 a.m. meeting minutes and February 24, 2021, 6 p.m. meeting minutes. I will give a moment for commissioners to take any last-minute look at those minutes. As I say, when we are doing this particular part of the agenda, commissioners have in fact received these and had the opportunity to review them. I'd just like to give the opportunity for one last glance at them before we go ahead and take the vote. With that, if commissioners are prepared to vote on the approval of the minutes, are there any comments or anything before we go forward?
I do not, thank you.
Very well. Commissioner Thompson, you are free to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Thank you very much. The minutes are approved. That brings us to written reports to the commission. Are there any written reports to be submitted to the commission at this time?
We had just one this week, and I'd already
Could you
emailed-
speak a little bit more into the mic?
Oh, we had one
Thank you.
this week, and I had emailed it to each of the commissioners, plus Jerry, or Commissioner Nolte, and to our administrator. It was an affidavit for release of over and surplus collections, and this was from the collector's office. That's it.
And have commissioners received those emails?
Yes.
Yes.
And the administrator? Very well. Everybody has received those, so thank you very much. Are there any further written reports to this commission? Seeing none. Executive sessions, there are none listed. That brings us to adjournment. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. All right.